В предишния епизод на Камифуда, след първия ми изигран дуел срещу Лун за деня, реших да повторя предизвикателството. Той беше много по-подготвен, а тестето му много по-креативно. С известни усилия на ума успях да изработя подходящата стратегия, с която да бия неговата напреднала тавматургична стратегия и да затвърдя статуса си на истинско протеже в играта на Камифуда. Време е да продължим с следващата сцена, ключова, западните общежития. Нека да видим какво ще стане там. The hour is late, and the only sound in Glom Road stir from the restless and the wretched. My knuckles rub on a splinter-ridden door, and there I wait in the swaddling dark for an answer to my call. Will you help me now? I have too much guilt to my dream. The knob turns with a click. Tarot. Lun rubs the sleep from his eyes. He wakes as well as he can with a gentle yawn. Sorry, Lun, I know it's late. I think it's early, technically. What's going on? Sometimes things are easy to say in your head and difficult to speak out loud. Sometimes they are both. And we are forced to lay our heart bare regardless. I can't sleep anymore, not with him on my mind. Yeah, I know. And I can just not do anything. It's driving me insane, Lun, like an itch in the brain. I know that you feel the same way. I can feel it in my fucking bones. We were the ones who found him after all. There's nothing we can do. Not anymore. We can find out the truth. I chew on the inside of my cheek, between words. A metallic taste greets me in turn. I want to look around Trent's room, see if I can find anything. And I know that you have the dorm keys. He blinks a few more times, then takes his head out his doorway to peer down both ends of the hall. Did Ihram not have a very stern conversation with you about not getting involved? Because he did with me, and he mentioned the hands of the host like at least 6 times. That might not mean much to you, but I've been pack-sworn for long enough to appropriately wet my jimmies at their mention. I'm aware. I want to look into this anyway. Look, if you don't want to, just give me the keys. If I get caught, I'll say I stole them. Lun stares back blankly. A moment later, he lets out a monstrous sigh, cursing up a storm under his breath. No, damn it, I'm going with you. If Trent was still here, I would never hear the end of it if I let you do this alone. I flash him a soft smile. Appreciate it. Yeah, we get caught. I'm telling them you kidnapped me. Less appreciated, but understandable. I tiptoe through the dormitory halls, holding my breath as if a single pin drop might bring hell itself upon us. Until, of course, Lun mentions that there's barely 20 students left in this part of the dorms. Trent's dorm room is one hall down and 2 left turns from Lun's own. His door reads 592 and a small black chalkboard hangs just beneath the room number. It affectionately reads, "Please knock. All parties present may not be wearing pants." Loon pulls a ring of 20 or so keys and shoves a thin iron number into the lock on Trent's door. He does not turn it. Instead, he taps the door twice per the sign's instruction. We wait for a sound, a cry, a breath, shuffling behind the door, but the dead do not speak. Not in this world, anyway. Loon opens the door, leaning his weight into the frame. He always said the door stuck a bit. The air inside is stale. Open curtains let in rays of moonlight, exposing little specks of dust, which arouse from their slumber as Loon and I traipse about the room. The bed is unkept. A small bedside table holds a stack of 3 books, all science fiction. Beside that is an empty box of condoms. Yeah, a little thing about Trent. He got around. Like, a lot. Well, he did have muscles basically bulging out of his uniform. Wasn't the only thing bulging out of his uniform. What? What? So, was he seeing anyone? Cause I feel like that would definitely be someone to talk to. I don't think so. He was a bit more of a free spirit. Non-committal and all that. There are a few people we could ask. Ones he spent more time with than most, but they are all off campus for the break, I'm fairly sure. I do know one girl still on campus we could try asking. Actually, I think Trent slept with her and her brother. On different occasions, I mean. He, liked all kinds. I tend to prefer women, but to each their own. Huh, really? I catch a hint of disappointment in his voice. In any case, we should hurry. The last thing we need is someone spotting us rummaging through a dead student's room. Fair enough. Loon and I divide and conquer. He takes a look through Trent's closet, book bag and bookshelf, while I survey his desk and nightstand. His room is a bit messier than I would have expected. Old cups of ramen and half-eaten bowls of cereal litter his desk. And from the look of most, they are more than just a few days old. The bin under his desk is full of crumpled up papers, mostly recycled coursework. As I set the bin back down, a small dusting of grey plumes up inside from inside, pardon. I glance at my hand and I realize they are covered with thick grey dust. I sniff it. It is faintly reminiscent of campfires, or at least smoky to be sure. Ash. I don't suppose burning old homework assignment is typical here. Not particularly. I think Trent may have been trying to get rid of something, or maybe hide it, or he wanted something gone enough to burn it, at the very least. His desk drawers prove mostly empty outside the old pen. But there is a small notepad with room numbers listed on every line. Next to the room numbers are small descriptions in parentheses. The first one says redhead with the stockings. The second one says guy with cute moans. I flip a couple of pages and it just keeps on going. Jesus, dude. But then I flip a couple of more pages and spot a small calendar he's drawn out with notations by days of the week. Monday. Ariana stressed about a chemical final. Leave ice cream by her door. Thursday. Sean strapped on cash. Slip 20 into his book bag during exo. A knot rises into my throat. It tightens until my eyes begin to glisten. I turn a few more pages. Wednesday. Vic's shutting down again. Try something fun. Arts and crafts. Movie night. Says locked in room. Ask about her play. Bring quizo pudding. Anything but tapioca. In Friday, that is. I closed the notebook. He really cared about them all. And not just the club members, by the looks of it. My head feels a bit light. I take a seat on his bed and tuck Trent's notebook into my jacket. My heart pumps blood hard through my veins. A tinge of anger flushes through me. Who would want to hurt this guy? And how could they even stomach it beside? From the other side of the room, Loon mumbles. That's odd. I snap from my stupor. Find something? Maybe? He walks over the bed and drops a large blue tome in my lap. The cover is embroidered with a strange spherical symbol rather than text. I open to a random page. A dull throb strikes my head almost instantly, like someone took a hammer to my temples. All the other stuff in the bag, in his bag, were for his classes. This one isn't. How do you know? Class materials always come from the school library. If they are checked out of the library proper, they are given a small tag on the side. Irremovable by physical means, and most eldritch means. If you don't want to burn the book anyway, this book doesn't have a tag, plus it's not something I recognize. Besides, it's in the language of the realm beyond. So unless he took up linguistics in his spare time, I'm not even sure how he would begin reading that. I'm assuming you can't read it either. He squints his eyes at the words. This one is food. Meal. Hungry? Yeah, I got nothing. I run my fingers up the book's spine. A slight shiver works through my body. There is something familiar about this thing. A loud tapping, like shuffling, echoes somewhere in the hallway outside. Loon and I freeze in place, and I find myself holding my breath again. He whispers, "Time to go." I nod in reply. I snag the strange book and Trent's personal notepad as the pair of us slink out of the room and back into the dormitory's darkened halls. Hearts pumping and spiked with fear-driven adrenaline, we skip any cursory goodbyes. Instead, a curt note suffices, and the unspoken promise that neither of us will quit until we are dead and done. В интересницата, почти съм сигурен, че това е книгата, която е... Не знам това временното дали показва, че само за някакво време ще бъде, или това значи ще прогресира времето. Но тази книга е тази, за която говорихме с ония пичага. Не беше това, което трябваше да взема. С която говорихме с библиотекаря. Предварително, преди да сме видели ивента дори. 100% е тя. Само повтарящи карти. Ще прогресирам, ако говоря с някой от двете. Тогава първо ще говоря с Ихарам. Iharam's office is surprisingly uncluttered in comparison to my previous visits. There are notably less documents on his desk and more than a few empty spaces on his bookshelves. His jars of fireflies still float about the room, aimless and serene. However, their glow is dull, as if sleeping. All right, Tarot. What is this about? He glances at a simple white-faced watch on his wrist. Somewhere better to be? Take no offense by it. Most days, I'll be true to answer whatever inane questions you brought me. The hints of the host presence on campus has unfortunately complicated matters. I haven't seen them. Really? Intriguing. I would have thought they would make contact with you by now. In any case, my time is pressed. For what reason did you request the visit, boy? A simple question, yet impossible all the same. There are a million things I want to ask Ihram. What aren't you telling us about Trent? Are the rest of us in danger? Is a club member a suspect? After all, whoever murdered him clearly had a key for the club room, or the means to get past the wards at least. And then there is the strange tome Luna and I found in his room. My attempts to read it have all crushed and burned. The only thing I've ascertained is that every time I open that book, my head begins to ache and my stomach begins to churn. There's no way I can tell him any of that though. Who's to say the simple act of breaking into Trent's room wouldn't be offense enough to send me back to the gardens? Ihram snaps his fingers at me. If you'd be so kind, please daydream on your own time. Yes, sorry. I'm here to talk about your daughter, actually. What about Zenfreya? Well, Professor, first I would like to apologize, as I'm not sure there's a respectful way to put this, but... What is the beef with you? With you two? And whatever it is, why does it seem like it crawled up her ass and decided to make permanent residence there? Watch your tone, Tarot. Hey, I prefaced it with an apology. His lips press into a thin line. Any presumed turmoil within our family is our own business. Furthermore, this conversation is far from appropriate given our relationship as teacher and student. Says the guys who had me picking out presents for her a little more than a week ago. Yeah, I put two and two together. You are correct, Tarot. That was a mistake on my part. As such, it would be probably best we end our discussion with your departure. I click my tongue. Oh no, I'm not leaving until I know why Seven wants to tear my head off every time I run into her. I don't know what's happened between you, but whatever it is, the matter is clearly bleeding into the rest of her life. And she's taking it out on whoever she happens to run into in the hallway. And before you suggest that perhaps she just doesn't like me, I'm positive I'm not the only one. Even the other club members, her friends presumably, have seemed reluctant to interact with her whenever she's brought up. And judging by how hard they are still trying, how hard Trent was still trying, I'm fairly sure this is new. So, come on man, why is she pushing everyone away? Professor Iharam taps a pen 3 times to his desk before setting it down gently beside the framed picture. He looks upon the image wistfully, if not mournfully, eyes vacant, waiting to be filled by the memory of a time long past. And he's quiet for more than a moment. I presume Zenfreya has not told you yet, then. Told me the origins of her new moniker, 7. No, she hasn't. He leans back in his chair and rubs some of the exhaustion from his eyes. When she was little, we called her our little miracle. And she certainly was. Before Zenfreya, Clara and I, her mother, had tried to conceive for years, to no avail. A year before Zenny's birth, her mother suffered another miscarriage, our 3rd, and it almost killed her. The toil on us was... we couldn't do it any longer. Clara was ready to give up, and I saw deep down how much that was breaking her. She had always wanted children, a family. Clara and me, the both of us, had been raised in the Paxuan world. And I'm sorry to say, Tarot, for many, it's not an easy life. All she ever wanted was a semblance of normality. Something that a normal person, a normal woman outside the realm of pacts and malicious entities and shadowy governments might take for granted. And when I saw the realization in her eyes that once again she couldn't have even this one sapling of peace, I made a mistake, Tarot. The same we've all made. You made a pact? I did. For a safe delivery and a healthy child. I contacted something very old and very distant. I spoke with it in the dead of night through a medium of intention and blood. And when the deed was done, I woke my wife, unsuspecting, and convinced her that we should try again. When Zenfreya was born 9 months later, it was just as we had hoped. She was so beautiful, a baby girl with tufts of hair like fire and blood. I had never seen Clara so happy. What was it that Iharam said to me on the first day, in the darkness of the Roth's iron cell? Pacts sworn are born of our own mistakes. What happened? Those that dwell in the realm beyond do not give, Tarot, they take. And if you are very lucky, like me, sometimes you are allowed some measure of consolation in return. But nonetheless, the Eldritch took. In the moment of Zenfreya's birth, there were 7 other women in the hospital, in the throes of childbirth, and each of their children were stillborn horrors. Shriveled husks delivered in coatings of pustules and sores, fleshless and drained. And at once I knew what I had done. Years later, when Zenfreya was still a child, I confided the truth in my wife, Clara. It caused us problems for a time, but We worked through it nonetheless. And then, early last year, Clara passed. Shit. I'm sorry, Professor. He raises his hands to silence me. His eyes glisten. They reflect the tender azure ambience afforded his office by his swathing of fireflies. Though his voice remains steady, stoic even. After the funeral, Zenfreya spent some time going through her mother's things. Old trinkets and such, mementos for the heart. And it seems she kept a journal, and Zenfreya found about her birth. Всъщност това бях аз. And Zenfreya found about her birth. You had the right of it. I leaned back in my own seat. To be honest, I don't blame her for being angry. What a thing to learn, and to have no say in it at all. And just after losing her mom, I would not presume to orchestrate the content of your relationship with my daughter. But if I may be a father rather than a professor for a moment, I would ask you to give her a chance and apologize in her stead. The fault, dear boy, is my own. Yeah, well, things are rarely that simple, are they? Really, yes. A moment of silence passes between us. Though to his credit, I do not feel awkward or uncomfortable, but merely pensive. Tell me, Tarot, if you were in her stead, if your parents had done what I have, would you forgive me? Какво да му кажа? Honestly, if there's anything I regret, it's that we never worked our problems out. They smiled more before my brother passed, even well after his death. They were never really the same. They were harder on me than they should have been, and I was harder on them. Forgiveness is a heavy word, Professor, and I can hardly speak for Zenfreya, but if it was me, I think I would wish for more than anything, that we could have put aside all the shit we weighed against each other. At least once before the end. Ihram nods, albeit somberly. I am sorry. You did not get a chance, Tarot. I hope that Zenfreya and I do. Ihram rests back in his chair. His eyes are thick with dark circles. His shoulders seem too heavy for the simple act of breathing. You've given me some things to think about, kid. For that, for that and for looking out for my daughter, I thank you. Sure. Though I really came here because she keeps yelling at me. Still, I appreciate the sentiment. I'll have to ask you to leave now, I'm afraid. I need some time for myself. No problem, Professor. I could probably use some of that myself. At his suggestion, I make for the door, and just as I am about to leave, I hear him say, Do stay out of trouble, kid. Believe it or not, I'm rooting for you. And I hardly believe I'm the only one. Добре. Остава да реша при коя ще отида от двете. Но това ще се случи в следващия епизод.